Said
Okay.
that just before it hit live stream.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was I didn't want to do it. I had the 810 rounds to do it because I worked hogs for years. But the problem is the flag would have to be like almost the whole wall to make those work because they're so much larger. So I managed to get the eagle rounds. I was like, ah, that's cool. The other ends are in the dirt someplace, but plus being actually brass looks better.
Oh no, yeah, I agree. The moment the screen popped on, I was like, man, look at that flag. Like, that's nice.
Kind of one of the benefits of being around aircraft maintenance. You get access to some things every now and then.
I'm over here talking, I got my stuff on mute. Look at that.
Yeah, hey man, that was one of my favorite things in the military was doing drug deals of some sort, and like different trades and things you can make happen. That like my favorite job when we were deployed was the being the acquisitions guy.
Hey, gear drift is a gift, man.
There's a phrase I know. Oh, especially when you're dealing like the contractors like Brown and Root, and the guys are like, we need like a table, go out 1 o'clock in the morning, raid their construction site, and I got 2x4s and plywood, and we got the tools. Let's make this happen. So,
Right?
I was making doors for tents, all sorts of stuff. One of the guys made a whole deck. Those contractors like, where the hell's all our lumber going? We're like, we don't know. They're sitting on a deck drinking coffee outside of a tent. No idea.
Hmm.
Oh, I see. Somebody's got the main bolt to the tail hook of an F-18. I got a, let's see. This was a engine mounting bolt for the A10. So it's probably hard to see. You see those little, just like you can just barely feel it. Those little wear lines out of
Yeah.
spec. So I had to yank it to do it. And I was like, wait, I said, what do we do with the bolts? They're like, I'll throw them in the trash. I was like, that's a souvenir.
Yep. Don't throw nothing in the trash, man.
Nope. But yeah, you can't even feel it. But micrometer, you can. It was like, oh, no good. So swap it out, put in the new one. Probably a $500 bolt.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
what was crazy about it on the aircraft too is like you'd have like identical parts, like they were mirrored left and right. And one of them that always killed me was on the back of the canopy, there's like this little panel about this big called turtle deck that would kind of cover up some of the stuff when it went down. And there's two bent pieces of like sheet metal with a hook where it would hook under. The left side was only like 20 something bucks, but the right side was like 150 for this piece of bent sheet metal. Is exactly the same as mirror image, but one of the things I kind of learned there is that like one side was always more expensive than the other because however they tracked and did that stuff, like we designed one side, that's where the most cost was, and then the other side was, I don't know how it worked, but it was so annoying when you're ordering stuff in the system. You're like, oh, that's a cheap fix, and then okay, this side's not a cheap fix. The landing gear pins, like, are you talking about the safety pins, or are you talking about like the roll pins? Yeah, safety pins. Yeah, a couple things. Well, we're live streaming now, so never mind. So where are you located, Pedro?
I'm in Rockwall, Texas.
Oh, okay. So you're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm about 27 miles east of Dallas.
So just at the edge of the craziness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good enough to not be so close. I get to enjoy living near a lake and
Well, nice.
get my quiet time. So yeah.
Yeah, that Dallas Metroplex. I mean, you drive through there, you're taking your life into your hands some days.
Don't ever leave home without anything good, man.
No, I mean, like I'd make it a point to drive through there in the middle of the night when I had to go across, like cross countries and stuff. Like, I don't want to deal with that thing during rush hour. Oh, that's cool. Hey, Ryan, look at that. Awesome. We'll get started in 1 minute as we are still a little slow, unless the AV guys are doing something today.
I think Friday is optional for them.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't help them. Okay, cool. Well, hey, let's get this ball rolling. So today I'm excited to welcome Pedro Zambrano, Senior Tech Recruiter, Marine Corps veteran, and host of Veteran Coffee Connection. He spent over 20 years in the Corps leading recruiting operations as an award-winning recruiter and developing leaders across the country. Now he builds elite tech teams in the civilian sector while helping veterans navigate their own transition. He brings a great dual perspective. He knows what it's like to take off the uniform, and he also knows exactly what hiring managers are looking for. We'll dig into his journey, the lessons he shares with veterans in transition, and what companies can do better to connect with this incredible talent pool. Pedro, I managed to hit all the high spots.
And you said everything. I don't even need to talk anymore.
Okay, hey, great chat. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Hey, so I'll get this started off easy. So, I mean, looking back on your own transition, what were the hard parts? What were the easy parts? How'd you get through it? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. So hard parts, it feels like a lot of us, when the major hard part is trying to figure out what to do next. And so for me, the hard part was making that decision. What do I want to do when I grow up? And so
Mhm.
looking to navigate past, time in uniform and figure out where that was going to take me into, life in the corporate sector. Sometimes the clear path for what you're going to do after you hang up the uniform isn't as clear as everybody probably thinks it's going to be, or it actually is, because you have to figure out how your actual career can transfer into something that is of value to an organization, especially depending upon if it's not a technical career. So that was one of the hard parts for me, was figuring out what to do next. The other part was, and I'm sure everyone experiences it, how are we really going to set ourselves up to look great on our resume to showcase all the experience that we got? And so the resume, figuring out where to go next, that alone puts that mindset of, it's going to be a tough road ahead, because everybody's going to want to reach out and shake your hand and thank you for your service. You might get a couple of attaboys from people that are still in uniform, but the road after can feel a little bit lonely, because a lot of times people don't have the actual roadmap to show you of, like, these are the steps you should probably take for yourself. So lesson learned for me, though, was, instead of wanting to rush into something that I was going to be like, this is my forever, I understood I needed to accept a couple of full right nows so that I could figure out exactly what I wanted to do now that the Marine Corps was in the rear view, and I had, just Pedro as being that part of the new journey. So just having a little bit of patience with that. And also, I did something I believe that most service members are probably not going to try, because they want to run into something that's familiar, and they want to be able to get into something that they know how to do and they feel like they're valuable in it. I chose a profession I didn't even have any experience in. And I was fortunate because through networking, having a great relationships is extremely key. They always come full circle. I was able to get into a project management role, and it was different from leading people. It's not just projects, and projects are inanimate. But I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't a one-trick pony. So I went into a profession that I had little experience with, and I knew I was going to have to move up a peak performance model of having to depend on other people for answers, especially after leaving the service when I had all the answers, in my career. So doing that really helped me to kind of breathe as I navigated life after the uniform.
So how'd you get into project management without the experience, without the background? I mean, we all have a little project management
Oh, yeah.
experience in the military. That's for dang sure. But I mean,
Yeah, no, true.
how'd you convince a civilian company I'm your guy?
So when I was retiring, I retired as a recruiting instructor for recruiting station Phoenix in Arizona. And I had like 6 months left to kind of figure my stuff out because I felt so tied to the mission.
Oh
How
yeah.
I got into the project management piece is that my former commanding officer, he moved into a startup organization and he was like, listen, I know some great people I can bring in. They have a ton of experience. He sold it to them. And they said, well, most of our team members right now who are project managers, since we're a startup, they don't necessarily need to have the PMP. That's a process we want to bring into and help them get the certifications with. So I just found the right opportunity through a relationship that then helped me segue into project management. And then the wonderful thing about it was learning about project management, it ties all back to military experience. They just put different terminology on it and the methods of how they execute certain things when it comes to project completion, the tools that are available to manage certain factors of the project, all the new language and terminology that is different from military service and how we operate. It was a great learning experience, but I got into it because of a relationship that he sold, which gave me the chance to work for an organization as a project manager.
So how'd you manage to learn that new language without kind of losing yourself in that time?
I did a lot of after hours work, brother. A lot of
Yeah.
after hours work. And I was I was willing to be humble enough to know that I needed to ask questions. And so through asking questions from others who had more experience, even some who were not project managers, but they came from organizations that they had already had those conversations with them, those conversations, asking the questions, and then doing my own deep dive of homework, taking classes on LinkedIn Learning, and just really seeking out organizations that were already providing material free online without needing to go take the classes for the CAPM or the PMP for all the requirements to follow through. I did a lot of self-educating on that to grow in my knowledge and experience, and then also to make it feasible to be a solid project manager for the company.
Yeah, it's crazy how many like self-learning things there are out there to be found and try to figure out which ones are valuable and which ones are just fluff. I mean, as you ran into some fluff doing that.
A lot, a lot. It it would be, it would be interesting because, when I was still in the Marine Corps on recruiting duty, we had a lot of recruiting conferences, and we'd receive literature from organizations, professional organizations that were outside the service that would come in and give us classes. And I was introduced to an author named Jim Collins, and he wrote a series of books called Good to Great, Built to Last, and How the Mighty Fall. And in his series, he talks about a fox and a hedgehog. The fox needing to be like real flashy with how they do everything, and the hedgehog needing to break everything down to a simple manner to make a complicated process simple so it can be repeated. I'm a hedgehog. So I broke everything down to a simple manner and would normally freak out someone else because it was simple to me. I just understood the main underlying factors and keeping the main thing the main thing. I didn't get razzled about certain things if, somebody was late to deliver a request for information, or if me, tasking people out through a racy matrix, if somebody wasn't accomplishing the tasks, like everything didn't need to happen at that moment. I didn't have to die on the hill every day because now
Yeah.
I'm out of uniform. It was just more so about setting the expectations for deadlines and then ensuring the communication. There was checkpoints in between everything, which a lot we already got the experience for, just using the tools that were available for it. But no, it's not as impossible as people make it out to be. And that was my take on it.
So can you share any of the mistakes that happened along the line during that transition? You're like, hey guys, I already experienced this. Don't do this.
Oh man. So, well, now are you talking about like with the project management piece or like with transition as a service member?
Yes. Let's go with
Both.
it. Start off with the transition stuff.
Okay. So first mistake for transition that I made is I thought I was going to be able to get a skill bridge at the last minute. And that's not the case. Working through some organizations, skill bridges, you have to apply months ahead of time. So for example, a well-known one, I'm not going to say the name, but it's a well-known SkillBridge organization, national wise. There's a 6 month workup to get approval through that process to actually earn a SkillBridge seat and then leverage it for when you want to do SkillBridge with your, with your command approval and everything. I didn't know those things. And more importantly, people that I served with in uniform, they didn't have that information. They didn't know that. And so accepting that lesson, like, wow, I wish I would have connected with someone who was already out of the uniform and had the experience rather than tying back to the relationships I already had for people that had great intentions, just didn't have the right information. And so that was a big lesson for me was the skill bridge. If you're a veteran in transition, you got to do it really, really fast. The other was just understanding that I was looking at organizations as far as like, I need to have this organization has to have this so that I want it or that I want to apply there. Um, about 2 months into it, I was like, you know what? I just need to look at everything I don't want because that list was a lot stronger. And so when I researched organizations before I landed into this, I was just checking off the boxes of what I didn't want. And if it had some of that element that I didn't want, then I didn't pursue them. And it was okay because I now had the ability to freely make a decision. In uniform, it wasn't the case all the time. So lesson learned was just take time to evaluate, but also start early because we're just one of a many who are looking to do the same thing, and that line gets pretty long.
Hmm. Yeah, especially when you're dealing with cohorts and stuff, which kind of limits your windows. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've done the recruiting operations on the Marine side, you've done the civilian side. What are the parallels you see where you're like, hey, here's some similarities you need to stick with, and here's some stuff, throw it out the window?
So I loved Marine Corps recruiting because if I needed to be a hammer, I could be a hammer. Right? Uh, the similarities are its people. Never mistaking that you're working with people. They have lives, they have dreams and aspirations, and it's really similar, really same formatted conversations of understanding needs, motivators, and priority needs, and then uncovering all the, let's say, pain points that would happen through that process, but really trying to figure out if they're going to be an excellent fit. So communication wise, from Marine Corps recruiting to recruiting in the corporate sector is the same. Now, the process that is different is as far as the interviews. So when I would do interviews or my Marines would do interviews in the Marine Corps, we're having like 2 hour interviews because we're looking to go through a major process. On the corporate side, it's maybe like 30, 45 minutes on Zoom. And so it's different people at different stages in their life, but the communication factors and how you do it is completely the same. Operational wise, in Marine Corps recruiting, I was helping, or my Marines were helping people do active duty reserves, or if there was officers, it was a different style for the officers that I would train. On the corporate side, like, so for example, the company I work for right now, we do contract for a project or just a contract for a certain company for 6 months. There's contract to hire, where it's a 6 month conversion period between a candidate and an organization that can turn into a full-time job, or it's a direct placement, which is a full-time hire immediately to the organization. So knowing and learning that new style of like how you can help someone out, that took some time because it's a whole new language, it's new processes, and I had to get humbled, not gonna lie. I thought I knew everything about recruiting when I left the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
and I had a great deal of understanding, and I brought it into what I do now, except there's more methods to the madness of how you can serve people. And so to understand that product knowledge, it took time. I had to go back to retraining myself and learning how to understand that process so that I could better serve the candidates and the clients that I'm working with right now.
Yeah, I experienced some of the same where I was like, yeah, I know how to recruit. And then the first 6 months was like, oh man, I'm having imposter syndrome because the systems are all different. And for me, interview was like 15 minutes because it was like, hey, it's a pre-screen interview. I hand it off. Where I was used to doing those in-depth interviews where I might have a young person in my office for 20 minutes or 3 hours, depending. And yeah, you don't see that now. I mean, it doesn't happen. The only time you're going to get a 3 hour interview now, that's like, okay, hey, we're hiring a VP, we're going to take him out to lunch. You're not dealing with that.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the tools because that was something that I was like, okay, I've used a CRM in the Marine Corps for recruiting. When I came out to, corporate side, like Salesforce, Monday, Trello, Jira, just all these other tools that are available. I was like, man, the government's got to catch up, man. They got so many great things out here. But it's fantastic because it does the same things. It's it has more capabilities. And so I feel like the tools that we have that I have available now, they just they really empower someone in their recruiting element to find better candidates, to store all the information correctly. I mean, AI has literally changed the game. Everything that you have now has AI attached to it. So, yeah, the tools out here are phenomenal. I wish I had them when I was still in the Marine Corps because I would be like, man, we'd have slayed this mission on a whole nother level with the
Oh
speed
yeah.
and accuracy that's provided. But, that's the government.
Well, especially on the AI side, just like, for a brand new recruiter, hey, how do I overcome an objection? And they give you like 30 different examples if you plug it in, and all of a sudden it's less trial and error, more like, hey, that looks like a good idea. Um,
Yeah.
there's times I envy somebody coming into recruiting now, and there's times I do not envy somebody going into recruiting now because there's always going to be a new challenge, like the Genesis system for MEPS. Like,
Yeah.
terrible idea. So away from that tangent. So I mean, you partner with people who've done the skill bridge thing. What makes a vet stand out as they're doing that through the program? What are the things you see like, yeah, that person's getting hired, or yeah, good luck, dude.
So one of the immediate things that will you see it full force is when the resume still has a lot of military terminology to it, it's going to be a tough road ahead for that person. And then when speaking with people, somebody leaving the uniform, when they're still resisting to grow, then that path is going to be even tougher. So those two things immediately, the terminology on a resume and then through conversation, like, still using a lot of the acronyms, which I know can take time. But there's a difference between things taking time and then being willing to adjust and, strengthen your tool bag so that you can succeed after the uniform comes off. So through conversations, whether on LinkedIn and it's, a virtual coffee conversation. When I came out here, I was like, those things are dumb. Like, why are people doing that stuff? But they're powerful because that leverages the ability to network with organizations and professionals all across the country. And so I was like, oh, I've embraced it. I once I did a few of them, I was like, oh, this is a super powerful tool to use. So I do it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So when people are resistant to change and their resumes, and then they, I don't know. For me, at this time right now, when you're leaving the service in these, in this age, there are so many resources available right now to help you get a strong footing into the next chapter of life. A lot of them, if you don't know who they are, you just got to ask and talk to people. But there's so much available right now. When I retired in 2023, it was different than when I left the Marine Corps in 2004 the first time, because I got off of active duty in '04 after coming back from Iraq. And so I experienced what it is for a young veteran when they leave, pack up a sea bag, clear out the wall locker, grab all your stuff, and you just put it in some boxes and you drive away. And when I did that and I went and, you know, drove away from Camp Pendleton in 2004, I was like, okay, my time in the Marine Corps is over. Like it's done. And then it was a very emptiness that happened afterwards because I got shotgun blasted from TAP and didn't retain a lot of information because I was so much to go through. And then I didn't really have a strong mentor or somebody that I knew that had experienced that piece. So I felt alone when it was over. And it took time, I did I experienced what a lot of young veterans are going to experience, or just anybody for that piece. I went inward instead of going outward. And social media didn't exist as much as it didn't exist at all in 2004. Now, when you leave, if you choose to go inward, it's a choice. It's you don't really have to. There's so much available that you can even want to be inward. People will still reach to grab you and bring you out, and they'll open the conversations and the pathways to help you solidify your transition from where you're at right now to where you want to move to in the future. Um, yeah, there's just so much available now. It's mind-boggling.
So just saying that, like when you're looking through those SkillBridge resumes, you see the one still using acronyms and the person who's figured it out, you're gonna probably ignore the person still using the jargon unless they have something real special in there. I mean, odds on.
I'll tell you this. If the resume has jargon, that's the first person I usually call. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? How's the transition working out for you? What are your thoughts at? What are you seeking? Just start the conversation. Very rarely do I not call somebody because of what I see on their resume. Um, if anything more so, I consider it an immediate invitation. And for me, I feel like it's a responsibility to provide what I've learned to someone who's going to go through it so that they can avoid those pain points and have a better transition. So I see them, I still call
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's kind of what I was hoping to hear. Right. So, I mean, how do you see companies typically handle SkillBridge internally? I mean, is it seen as a talent pipeline or more of a short-term program where they try to get lucky?
them. They could look at it both ways. For through the conversations and the service members that I've connected with, when they do SkillBridge, I mean, when you go on terminal leave, you can literally work. So the faster you get to SkillBridge and you go on terminal leave, I mean, you can go to work. Now, as far as them utilizing your skill sets and experience, some of them see it as an opportunity, number one, to see if you're going to be the right fit. So it would be almost similar to what like a contract to hire period would be, right? Where they're doing the evaluation and seeing whether or not you're going to be strong enough to run into the organization itself. And the ones that I have worked with, it's a positive notion for somebody who's on SkillBridge, especially for someone who's willing to learn a new type of skill, and it's a profession that, it's a career path they were never in before.
Okay, so speaking as a recruiter, what do you see veterans consistently undervalue in themselves when hiring managers usually see as a huge asset? What do we downplay that they go, oh, I want that?
Technical skills. So for some reason, a great amount of resumes will hone in and they'll try to hit on the intangibles, my leadership, my teamwork, just all those intangible qualities that we all have. We just put too much on the resume. So I will see veterans downplay their technical skill experience, and most of the time it'll be the last few items in a works experience section. They'll try to highlight all the other pieces first because they're like, oh, I want them to know that I can be a good team member and everything else in between. Um, so that alone can lessen your ability on your resume because most people are not going to read through your resume more than, a minute. I mean, the average right now, I was at an event yesterday, we talked about it, and it's 8 seconds. 8 seconds when somebody who's in a recruiting element looks at your resume, is trying to identify all these key factors on their professional summary, core competencies, work experience, education, any type of volunteer work, and then also any achievements or projects, completed. That's real quick. And so if the immediate things that are on your resume are not highlighting technical skills that are related to the solutions that lead towards what a company is searching for, not knowing how to prepare your resume in that manner, that's where veterans miss the boat. And so most of the time, they're like, I only learned this after submitting 50 resumes to companies that have never gotten a call back. Well, after the first five, man, you probably should have talked to somebody. You should have connected with someone who's already done it before. Don't be afraid of a recruiting organization. Granted, not all of them are perfect, but that's what the networking piece is for, is just taking your resume to someone who's already done it and saying, listen, I'd love to get some feedback. Give me all the feedback you got. If you got some time, if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, just give me a look and just let me know what I can do better. And at that point, work from that piece. But missing the boat on technical skills and in how you write the resume or information you have in there and not taking constructive criticism from anybody or getting feedback, that's where veterans miss the boat and bring themselves down in value and not being able to do well once they hang up the uniform.
Yeah, so we harp on networking. You've said it a couple times. So, I mean, what does effective networking look like on the recruiter side of the equation? You know, when you look out there, you go, yeah, that's effective, and like, nah, that's just you're not there.
So effective networking. So for example, on LinkedIn, and I'm hoping, everybody creates a LinkedIn. Some people don't do it, but I would encourage you to do it. It's just my opinion and experience and success with it I've seen come out of it. Effective networking on LinkedIn doesn't look like you send in connection requests to people that you've never interacted with, and then not including a thoughtful, meaningful message to them on why you're wanting to connect with them. That's ineffective networking. Effective networking on LinkedIn looks like I see someone who has already put a post about a job or they work for a company that I like. I've seen something they've posted. I've left a meaningful comment that is nothing less than 15 words because the algorithm will pick up 15 words in a comment. It's not just once, it's happened a handful of times. And based off of that, because now they see my name and they've seen my profile, I then initiate a follow and a connection request and a message attached to it, tying back to something that they either posted or they have inside their profile that you find interesting and that you want to learn about. And that's why you're seeking them out to connect and also want to see, how you could better support them in whatever they're doing. That's effective networking on LinkedIn. The first version is the version a lot of people do, and which is why they don't end up successfully networking in LinkedIn because they're looking to collect before they connect with people. And that manner of doing the collection before the connection is always going to it's going to take you in the wrong direction.
Tell me about that 15-word thing. What's that
Yeah,
all about?
so on LinkedIn, when you there's a whole there's a whole like class you could probably give on this, is that when you do a comment to someone, right? And granted, there's AI that's already capable of creating the comments on somebody's post or whatever, or something that they have on the platform. Once you get to 15, it's the sweet number that immediately draws more eyes to it, more viewers, and more than just that person that has actually posted it on their profile. But 15 continues to carry through the platform for each time you do it. Less than that, if you immediately try to go and like tag them to a URL or anything else, those things can hinder your ability when you're doing any comments or you're replying to people. So the 15 is the sweet spot. And
Yeah.
it's not something I brought up. I follow a ton of I see somebody on there, that's a new one I've heard, 15 words. And when I joined on LinkedIn at first, I was like, maybe I want to be like a content creator on LinkedIn. So I was following all these people wanting to sponge up what they talk about. And a lot of them that do like the AI driven material through their posts and then through some of their like little carousels that they do with learning, they have shared it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to grab that, put it in my toolbox and use it as I move through and look to grow not just my ability to network with people, but also help somebody else so that way they can do the same.
I like that tidbit. Thank you. That's one I hadn't heard yet. Obviously, John hadn't heard that one yet. So, I mean, beyond LinkedIn, do you see any underutilized tools or programs or strategies that you'd recommend?
Um, so one of them is connecting with groups that are in your area. So wherever you're gonna, call home, and wherever state, whatever city, is finding a veteran organization that's already there and connected with members that are already in that group. Um, like for example, I host one that's virtually because I do attend some that are here in the Rockwell area. Like there's an amazing one called Band of Brothers, and it's the prominent members in the Rockwell County area that are retired service members from every branch. You also have city officials who have no military background, but they love to support the military. They show up to these meetings. And so because I want to get plugged in into my community, I go to those meetings to connect with people that are either business owners, city officials, or they're just veterans who are just fully retired, but they volunteer at different organizations that are connected to businesses in the area. And I just want to grow my name back into the community. So I see that as an opportunity that it's nothing tied to LinkedIn. It's just tied to you getting connected with people in your groups that are around you. Now, if it's an organization that you want to go into that is online, there's tons of them online. You can join. They got the cohorts for people to go and like have a drink on a Friday. Get a burger and a beer. There's tons of them out here. So I do the ones that are out here, but then, as I mentioned, right, I created one that's called the Veteran Coffee Connection. My purpose for it is I wanted to bring in veterans from every timeline of transition, from making the decision to living out through TRS, going through their skill bridge, preparing for exit, hanging up the uniform, and then being separated or retired for a couple of years, and put them all in one platform where they can provide knowledge and feedback to each other, but also to introduce and create the network of them tapping into creating a relationship that can lead into a referral to something else. So whether it's a referral for something dealing with like a VSO, or possibly a job opportunity, or another network of professionals that may be in their areas, I did that intentionally so that that can take place.
So, I mean, how would you suggest we, vets approach companies, conversations with employers that they're interested in pivoting to a field where they got basically no direct civilian experience? How do you open that conversation?
A lot of it is through just wanting to jump on a call and learn from somebody who's in the organization. So I would suggest, and I always I talk about posting to be found, not posting to find something. To be found so that way you create enough relationships, people start paying attention to you. So for getting into an organization that you don't have a ton of experience in, a great amount is going to be initiating a relationship and peeling back layers on that organization so that you can learn about them and understand exactly some of the items that they're seeking. And in that way, that relationship with that person can also connect you to a referral to either a recruiting element of the organization or them carrying your name themselves to a hiring member of the organization. People get hired these days through referrals and through relationships. Very rarely does anybody get hired through a portal where you submit your name and you're waiting on a system to populate and say that you're a great candidate for somebody to give you a call. You got to build the relationships and get connected to people that are already doing that job. And then through that notion, you can go in and start having the conversations to sell yourself, opportunities about how you could be, a great bridge for them into, where they're trying to take themselves. And they might be not paying attention to certain things that they need in their company. And you also bring that solution to them.
Makes sense. So, I mean, how do you suggest, because humbleness comes up very often in here. So, and I embrace it. It's totally correct, at least in my opinion. So how do you suggest we balance humility with the need to confidently market ourselves during that transition? How's that? Hey, I can do anything, but I'm humble. That's a tough one, right?
It is. So, talking about the platform, LinkedIn, right? We'll talk about the social media piece first. Creating a brand of who you are is not the same as marketing your brand. So the brand of who you are, as a father, husband, wife, mother, whatever that is, you're creating a brand for yourself on social media, on LinkedIn, professional wise, whatever your skills and experience is, your about section. And your brand you want to gain exposure to that brand. So you want to introduce your skills and your experience and your value and what's important about you to the masses. And then how you market it is completely different because you also want to market it to the industry that you want to connect with. So you don't want to get connection requests to people that have nothing to do with it or with the industry you want to go into. For example, if you're trying to go into IT, it makes no sense to get with people that have nothing to do with IT and try to build a network with that group. You want to build that network with people that are in that role, in that industry, and then start introducing them to you. And then through the relationships that you create through your network, they then get view of your brand and how you post items about successes in the past, lessons learned. You share projects that you're working on, things that you find interesting. You might write an article and publish it on there. So the humility about it is understanding that I had to eat the humility myself. Like when you're in uniform and you do real well and you're really good at what you do, it's kind of hard to say goodbye. The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. And so that notion alone is like it's challenging to separate from that part of life. But when the uniform comes off, it's over, right? Yeah, it's done. So giving yourself a little bit of time to like breathe and let that go, and then realize that you're wanting to go into a world now where nobody knows you. You'd have to look at it as though I'm in charge of all these people. I care about them. I love them. This is my unit. This is my team. This is my platoon. If I had an outsider come in and say they knew how to take care of my team better than me, but I didn't know anything about them, how receptive would I be to that person? Like, would I really open the door for them to walk in without knowing anything about them? They could have all the best intentions in the world, but because of what I feel responsible for and what I, hold true to, am I willing to open the door and the access to them through that manner? Most people would say no. A good person would probably say no if they care. So the sooner you begin the branding of yourself and then you market it to the right industry, you market it to the right people. You can go into AI and ask it how to market yourself off of the brand you have of yourself, do an analysis of your profile. Through that method, you'll achieve a good introduction to the audience that you want to receive it. But the major humility factor is Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, whatever, that's over. Coast Guard, it's over. Got to realize nobody knows you. So you have to introduce people to who you are right now and then share what you learned in the past. And the sooner you do it, for those of you, anyone who's, if I could do it all over again, I would have started this and shared my transition story as I was living out the transition through SkillBridge. I would have started it even sooner if I'm doing SkillBridge and still have time after that to where I have to go back to my unit. I would have been doing all of that and putting it on a platform for people to see so they could get to know who I am so that the moment I now wanted to, you know, go into something after life in the uniform, they'd already know who I was. I wasn't a stranger. But I did that all in reverse. So if somebody could have the chance to do that, I would tell you wholeheartedly start right now. If you haven't done it, it's okay. Just start right now.
Yeah, it's the weekend. You got some time. You know. Hey, so we've all had to do the military interviews, whether it's like to get the next stripe, to get a position for a shirt, top, whatever. And then, there's the civilian interview. So what do you think the single biggest difference, other than like, burning all the strings off your uniform, there is to be like, oh crap, this is a huge difference to be ready for?
Um, Say that last part again real quick, please.
So, I mean, we've done the military interviews, but what do you think the biggest thing to be ready for that's a huge difference that we may not think about that there are with civilian interviews? Because
Oh, got you.
yeah,
So, um, there's a couple things.
oh,
One thing
go
would
for
be
it,
is
man.
one of the major things is going to be is if they bring up if the topic comes up about compensation. negotiating an offer. You know, if you don't have experience negotiating an offer, which I don't know how many people in uniform did, uh, that's something that you're going to get caught.
Yeah,
You're
it
going to
got
get caught
me.
with, and you're not going to be ready. So knowing your value, what the role is marketed for, how would an offer for that position look? What is a high, mid, or low offer? And being prepared to navigate that portion of a conversation in an interview. That's a major one. Where a lot of us stumble, and where I stumbled too, was immediately in when somebody said, "Tell me about yourself." I was like, "Okay." I went down a rabbit hole of all kinds of information that wasn't necessary at that time, and
Yep.
I later learned that there's a great way to introduce yourself. I know people get classes on elevator pitches and everything, and I learned it off of somebody through watching some videos, doing some home study. Uh, if you can hit a home run on your introduction, the rest of your interview you feel more confident about, and the prep work that you do helps a lot in the conversation. Military interviews, I mean, come on, like how was your interview when you went to the recruiting office? You know, some people are gonna be like, I walked in, I didn't have to do that. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, you're an anomaly. Some way, somehow, the campaign of like recruitment went to your doorstep. It's not a volunteer force; it's a recruited force. Okay, otherwise the door would be lining up down the street for people to walk in if they knew what we got. So the interviews for the military, you don't have to talk about compensation. You know, tell me about yourself. They kind of already know the roadmap of who you are. They see the history in your service record book. That's different. And if you're trying to join the service, then you go through a more intense screening because, like, for example, in the corporate world, I can't ask you if you got dependents. I can't ask you some of those questions because those can be underlying factors of like, oh, so you're judging me because I have a spouse or I have children.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's crazy.
that's a whole huge no-go. I made that mistake in the beginning. Luckily, I talked myself in a circle out of it. But
I did the
yeah,
same.
so
I'm
no,
like, oh,
yeah. So there's a lot of factors, but the key ones that I'll share is mastering an introduction, present, past, and future tense of like how you do that, and then being able to prepare yourself for a possible compensation conversation, and knowing what to say and being ready for it. Those are some immediate things that come to mind.
yeah. For me, like when I would set compensation when I was working as a recruiter, and when the topic came up, I was just awesome. Like, hey, here's the $5,000 swing, $6,000 swing that you're going to be in. It's going to be gone over. But I found the best single question is like, hey, what's the pay range? And
Mhm.
because 9 out of 10 times they're going to answer you, and then you can kind of start your judgment from there. Because yeah, that's they may not want to say it necessarily, but it's there for a reason. John,
Yep.
go ahead, man.
Hey Pedro, thanks for coming to speak to us again. I saw you
Yeah.
talk for a couple of weeks ago, and I always love like what you bring to us. So I wanted to talk about the compensation real quick. So do you think it's a little bit easier now that some states like require to kind of put a little pay band out there? Like I think California does it, and I think
Connecticut.
New York does it as well.
Mhm.
So what's your experience like? Does that pay band like translate everywhere, or is it just kind of a good like stepping stone, but you got to do a lot of research to kind of have that conversation?
As far as for the pay band, I haven't had any experience having to deal with the pay band right now for the clients that I'm serving. Um, so that's one, honestly, brother, I would look into that. We can connect and I can give you a better answer on it, but I haven't dealt with the pay band yet, so I don't want to shoot you in the wrong direction and say something that's not correct. I'm just gonna be transparent about that one, man.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, Cedric, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Pedro. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man.
Lovely to see another fellow Texan in the house. I had
That's
a
what's up.
question. When you were transitioning, how much
Mhm.
of your resume, and I guess former like achievements and things, what kind of things stuck out on your resume to help your hiring managers, basically for you to stick out? amongst your peers and like for the hiring managers?
So I'm gonna tell you for real, Cedric, my resume, I even paid somebody for it, bro, before I got out, and it sucked.
That's what my wife's
No.
saying. She's like saying like, hey, maybe you should try hiring somebody. Not that you know you're not learning, because we learn a lot in this course
Mhm.
about resume building and interviewing and then things of that nature. But she's like, I think you're selling yourself short because I only put like two of my decorations, which were
Mhm.
the highest ones I have are the Meritorious Service Medals.
Yeah.
So I have two of those. But she was like, "Well, what about your awards that you've won? Because you know, if a hiring manager doesn't never been in the military, you know, they're gonna see that you only have two medals, and they're gonna be like, wow,
Mhm.
you had this long career and you only have these two medals." So I was like, dang, I didn't think about it that way. So
I'll tell you, brother, there's different formats to use for resumes. What I learned after paying for the first one to do for me, didn't work out the way I wanted it. Took some time to peel back and say, okay, what's a great structure for using a resume? Um, Learning that if there's a lot of resumes need to be easy to read and in a modern style format because if somebody who's reviewing it is going to be very quick fashion with it. Okay. So for example, like your awards and achievements, it's I can see where people are like, hey, I need to put them on there because, you know, if well, they're just gonna think my career didn't that I wasn't good at what I did in my career, right? Like I didn't earn anything. Most civilians, they don't know what that stuff is. So, you know, if you put it on there, if it's somebody who's got military experience and it's a referral of your name and resume to somebody who's in that hiring department and they were in the service and they recognize what that is, fantastic, bro. Put it on there. Okay. If it's for a GS job, those are different styles, okay? And yes, add some of that material. But if it's for a role that you want to annotate that you've had military service and experience, you want to package that into your professional summary. You want to recognize some of those things in that bulk right there in the beginning, so they know who you are and what you have done. But yeah, I'm glad you're getting classes, and I know at Seven Eagle Group, man, you guys are getting the firsthand stuff on how to do this stuff. Way better than what you get when you go through like TAP and TRS, because it's just like bam, take that information and go run with it,
that
right?
was like what, like 3 5 days, and then you're done.
Bro,
Yeah.
if I'm seeking the opportunity to peel that thing back and bring the layers that need to come through it, but that's gonna take a little bit. But to answer your deal, I could give you a better understanding of it, man. But there's
All right.
a modern style resume format. If you're gonna send your resume to an organization that a person who's reviewing it does not have any military experience and you don't know, I would just leave it off of there, bro.
You
Save
take
that
it off.
knowledge
Okay.
for the conversation. Okay. Annotate your military experience and success in the professional summary and save some of those accolades and descriptions for when you get into the conversation. Okay.
Awesome.
The rest of it, keep it tailored towards what that role is asking for. Because what they really want to know is can you do the job that they're hiring for? And your resume should be built in that fashion for that type of job. You can have a master resume,
Got
but you need to have resumes that are built for that job and what they're looking for. And if you got it in your experience, you want to highlight all those things as high as you can on your resume so that they see it immediately and they're saying, man, you know what? We're looking for all of this and Cedric's got it. Let's give Cedric a call, right? Or now I'm the referral guy and I'm introducing Cedric. I'm like, listen, everything you want, one, two, three, four, check this out. He's already got it, man. What are we waiting on? Let's give him a
it.
call.
Okay,
Okay.
so if you garnered like team awards and things like that, you helped your team, you would put that like towards the front and as part of telling your story, right? Did you do something like that, or did you kind of just talk to the job description and basically how you match what the job is looking for? Like basically the proof in the pudding of like, hey, I can do the job because I know I have experience in XYZ, and you know,
So I grabbed some verbiage from from an award, right? Like a highest award, put that's a part of who I am into the professional summary. And so like I applied for a role that is for a government it was like a military manager of recruitment, right? And so in that notion, I added all the awards. But
Because
for
it's
the
relevant
yeah, the
to the
other
military. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so roles that are not relevant to it, I
Yeah.
just add the little blurb in there in my professional summary, and then I leave the rest for the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pedro.
Yeah.
Hi, Timothy.
Hey, so not a question, more on Cedric's thing. So, like, translate your awards and stuff. So, like, if you were NCO of the quarter or whatever, don't put NCO of the quarter on your
Mhm.
thing, but you could say, "Hey, selected as senior manager of the quarter, leading X amount of people." Translate it to something that they can understand. So, like, if your teamwork, like that your team got awards with, if that applies to the job that you're looking for, try to translate it. Like, you'll have to change some words up and stuff, but it shows how you're filling that position. So like, hey, I led a team of this, and then we got recognized doing X, Y, and Z. Like you can make it, you know, still applicable. You just have to make sure that you take the military jargon out, put it in civilian terms so that they see the value proposition that you're offering there and why you're recognized. That's more not for like, hey, you got a Bronze Star or something like that, but for some of the other like quarterly or yearly awards that you might have gotten.
No, that's true. It's so that's the quantifiable bullet on experience, right? And whatever wherever you were located at, whatever job you're doing, everything you just said right now is the quantifiable bullet. So yeah, no, you're right about it, man. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, boss. Whoever said that. Thank you.
Home run. So hey, my last one, I want to plug you a little bit. So tell me about Veteran Coffee Connection.
Yeah, so Veteran Coffee Connection started back in January. I got a phone call from a Marine I never served with, asked me if I'd give him some honest feedback about a job he had interviewed for. And so what I thought would be a 5-minute conversation ended up into an hour. From that time frame, um, in the beginning, it was like, I'm going to help people grow and learn about some of these, insights, right? Lessons learned and everything from transition. And I still do that. Now I just do it more on a one-on-one level, not just myself, but other members that join into the conversation. So right now there's a variety of veterans. I mean, we're talking about every rank. So from NCOs to senior NCOs to officers that join on that conversation. Now, on occasions, we do have people who are not affiliated with the military, like with service-wise, but they support it and they want to come in and listen and provide some mentorship, but also some connectivity for networking. I host that conversation twice a month on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard. So my guys on the East Coast, 10:30, and for those on the West Coast, if you're in Cali, it's 7:30 in the morning, right? You should still be able to get up a little bit early if you looking for a job and just got out of the military or whatever, but more so like the lifestyle. Um, the call usually lasts about an hour, and what I do is I populate topics onto LinkedIn and I grab suggestions from members who are in the conversation or material that I see trending on social media of like what everybody's experiencing or succeeding or failing with, right? And I'll bridge that into the conversation. Everybody who's on there, they share where they're at, what service they were in. Um, we've had every branch of service except the Space Force. So I think they're kind of young in that piece. None of them got out yet, you know what I mean?
Still
Uh,
figuring it out.
but yeah, still figuring it out. But the rest, it's no pressure. I mean, you can say whatever you want on there, right? Like the call is not recorded. It's just more so for having the ability to go on there, talk about a topic, provide your feedback. Everybody has a voice, network with other professionals who have lived what you're going to go through, or they're going through what you're going through right now. And then you can kind of cross-pollinate on some of the items of like best practices, lessons learned, and then from there, connect. After the calls are done, I then create a post on LinkedIn. I'll share the material that was discussed. I'll tag everybody who's on there so that way, if you don't network with someone who's on the call, you do it afterwards. You get their profiles, start the conversation that way, and then just continue the process moving. So I do that twice a month. And then I also do a smoke pit session. For the smoke pit session, that's like a free conversation, right? I mean, you talk about whatever you want to. I I feel like everybody learns a lot of
Like
a
smoke pit.
lot, yeah, a lot of themselves and got a lot of good mentorship when they were at the smoke pit, right? Sometimes probably wondering like,
Yep,
how the hell do these people get all these breaks, man? Like, what's wrong with them? So yeah, I do that as well too.
that's awesome. So, hey, before I let you go, any closing thoughts?
Um, yeah, so listen, everything that I've shared, obviously I'm just one person. You're gonna get a lot of knowledge and a lot of advice from many people. Um, you would be mindful to just note this. A lot of times, if you go inward and put yourself on the island, you're gonna be on the island by yourself, and you kind of take away the opportunity for people to help you. As someone who's transitioned twice, if you do that, sometimes you're gonna run into the wrong opportunity first. So beware of that. And even if you're still attempting to figure it out, it's okay, man. You know, be okay with a for right now move while you're figuring out the forever place. And sometimes that forever place may not be you working for an organization. It might be you becoming an entrepreneur and doing something that has nothing to do with any company. Is that when you hang up the uniform, your real service as a person who wore it, it begins when it's off. Because at that point, you now have a choice to make if you want to give back to the community that loved you and took care of you and helped you out, or you have the decision to go off and be on your own. Both are okay, right? But real service begins when the uniform is off and you have that capability of being able to help people who are, trying to eventually become you. Learn how to deal without the without the uniform on.
Yeah, you know, to light yourself on fire every now and then, which is not a
Yeah.
bad thing. So, Pedro Zambrano from Staff Source, former Marine,